Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Steven, Laggy Gamer here, and fresh off the heels of beating Final Fantasy XIII, I had to come at you guys with another game discussion on Final Fantasy XIII-2. If you guys listen to the podcast that me and Dustin recently put up, which, by the way, thanks for everyone who has turned into the podcast, another game podcast. We've had great comments. It's been received real well by you guys, so we appreciate all the comments and everything you guys have done for us. So just continue listening to it. I hope you guys enjoy it. And if you did listen to it, you'll know that a couple weeks ago I have already beaten Final Fantasy XIII-2. But before I do my discussion on it, I kind of wanted to find all the fragments in the game and do everything, unlock the secret ending, and before I get a discussion up about it. Now, I'm not going to do any spoilers or anything in this discussion. So, I mean, if you want a big spoiler, you can tune into the podcast and hear that. But pretty much just going to go over this game because I loved it. As you see, I got the game and I did get the guide. For some reason, RPGs, I just got to have a guide. I'm actually going through the last story right now. It's going to be the first one I ever beat without any help from a guide. So, anyway, without further ado, let's get this thing going. Final Fantasy XIII-2, it kind of, I want to say it kind of picks up where 13 left off, but in a way it doesn't. It kind of erases everything you did in 13. And for me to kind of explain the story in this, I have to give away a minor detail at the end of 13. That's coming right now, so if you haven't beat 13, you might want to hold off and listen to the very beginning of this part, but for the story. But anyways, in this game, what happens is at the end of 13, everyone's there who helped save Cocoon, and Lightning is there. That'll be all I'll tell you. Lightning's there at the end of the game. And at the beginning of 13-2, beginning of 13-2, Lightning's not there anymore with Sarah and them. Sarah wakes up out of this bed and everyone's telling her that Lightning's gone, she's nowhere to be found, and they think she's crazy because they haven't seen Lightning since they saved Cocoon 3 years ahead of when this started. So a lot of people think she doesn't know what's going on. She thinks, is she going insane? What's going on? She knows she talked to Lightning after they saved Cocoon, but Lightning's nowhere to be found. So pretty much the basic principle of this game is Sarah is trying to find her sister, just trying to find Lightning. Along the way, she meets up with Noel Christ. That's the second main character of the game, who you will play as, and these two are going to work together to try to find Lightning. And again, it winds up just leading into more than that. So, and basically, the story just goes like that. You want to find Lightning, but the way this is different from 13 is it's a time travel story. In the sense that Noel Christ, he has the ability to travel through the gates. These gates that transport you on the Historia Crux through time to visit the same areas you've been into pretty much in Final Fantasy XIII, Foul Peaks, stuff like that, but you're visiting them in different timelines. And you're trying to solve paradoxes in these timelines to try to correct the whole timeline. You're trying to set everything straight again. But what winds up happening in this game is if you affect the future, it also affects the past. It's like one big circle. Everything's connecting, not just if you change the past, it's going to change the future. Kind of like what we're used to here. So it can get kind of confusing, but basically all you want to remember is Sarah and Noel, you're trying to just find Lightning. And that's pretty much the gist of the game. But along the way, you have a guy named Kai's Ballad. He's your main bad guy. If you want to call him a bad guy. Like I said, if you listen to the podcast, I don't want to call him a bad guy. But he's there kind of messing with things and getting in the way. So basically, another character in the game is a girl named Yule, who's a seeress, who can see into the future and stuff that's going to happen. And Caius is basically her protector. What's basically happening is Kai's Ballad wants to do a certain thing to save Yule. Because Yule, she's pretty much dying. There's different versions of her. There's a new Yule in each time paradox. And she winds up dying pretty much every time in a paradox from getting all these visions and everything. And Caius has just witnessed this a ton of times. He's sick of seeing Yule dying. And he knows of a way he believes that he can save her, and that's what he wants to do. Now this could affect what Noel and Sarah are trying to do to save Lightning and actually save the whole Historia Crux and get everything back in order. So that's pretty much the gist of the story, if it makes sense. I don't want to go into any big detail because saying any more will actually spoil the story for you, and I do not want to do that. So just know that you're trying to find Lightning and set time right, and you got a guy named Caius who wants to get in the way. So that'll be it for the story. I won't really touch any more on that, but we'll go ahead and just get into my favorite part of it, other than the story, and that's the gameplay. Now again, I really hope that story part wasn't too confusing for you, but it makes a lot of sense once you start playing it. But anyways, as far as the gameplay, it's pretty much the same as Final Fantasy XIII, where the combat and everything like that is set up the same. You have your different classes, Commando, Sentinel, Ravager, etc., as you did in 13. But they made a lot of little good changes in it. Now, one of the big changes is people were kind of against only playing as Noel and Sarah throughout the game. Those are just your two main characters who are always in your party. And instead of having a third party member or character like in the original Final Fantasy XIII, you actually had to find monsters, and they would take the place of your party member and be in your group. A lot of people didn't like it. A lot of people were like, oh, I'd rather have a character. But I felt it was able to develop Noel and Sarah's story a whole lot better, and you could dig deeper into them as their characters into the game and get to know them. Final Fantasy XIII had a lot of characters, a lot of stories to try to get into, and I mean, you could dump a ton of hours in that game and still not really understand everything. And in this one, just the two characters made it simple to get their stories and everything straight and not have to remember a ton of characters throughout the game. And I actually loved trying to find these monsters in the game to add to the party. It felt, I'm not a huge Pokemon fan, but it felt like a Pokemon game on the side for the fact that you're trying to find monsters to build in your party. And there's rare monsters throughout the game. So you can be farming for, I remember at the beginning of the game, there's a monster that I farmed for 3.5, 4 hours just to have in my party because he was a rare monster. Finally see him, and when I fight him, sometimes you'll catch him for your party, sometimes you won't. And so I had to search around, fight him a couple times. I only saw him 3 times, then finally was able to capture him, get him in my party. And I mean, when you get that after you farm something for so long and you get it, it's so rewarding. And they're such strong monsters, so when you get these rare ones, it's really a treat to have them in your party to fight alongside you. So I really enjoyed like just going around, farming and finding all the monsters and getting that best monster in my party. And they were really easy to develop. And that'll lead to Noel and Sarah developing too for the CP points as far as leveling your characters. I like how the system was set up this time. Instead of having a menu of the 5 or 6 classes you want to level up at a time, it did it a whole lot easier where you're just leveling up one little whole bar the whole way, and you can either pick whether you want it to be in the Sentinel point, Commando point, and it just was really easy. I felt it was really easy to level up, easier to understand, easier to actually level up in the game. It seemed like I was getting CP points extremely easily, and easy to farm in the game if you wanted to level up and be ahead of those monsters. So just everything felt simpler in the game. And as far as your monsters, you level them up by collecting certain items and materials out in the world, or you can buy the materials from a shop. And that got a little bit tougher near the end of the game, trying to find those items to level up your monsters, but it wasn't a big huge deal. Most time you don't have to worry about how strong that monster is anyway. As long as they're above 3,000 health, you're fine. So it's pretty cool though, because those monsters you could then infuse with another monster to gain their abilities, and it really got pretty deep that way. So I did not mind the whole monster thing with them being in your party. I really liked it, and naming and having my own rare monster sets going on with my party. So that's how your party's set up, and it's pretty much the same combat system. So if you're familiar with 13 combat system, you'll be right up there with 13-2, except the little animation between the shifts is gone, which is such a lifesaver. Because I don't know if you remember in 13, if you were shifting into a different paragram, then I mean, a couple seconds was going by and you're still getting hit. And this one, it's instant, it's immediate, and there's no screen changes, and it works perfectly. Another thing is how you get preemptive strikes in the game. Final Fantasy XIII, when you're walking through the overworld and stuff, the enemies are already set and they're there. And a lot of the times, it was tough to get a preemptive strike. Sometimes it was just a monster, so you couldn't even get behind them to get a preemptive strike. That was a little frustrating in that game. In this one, there is no monsters on the map. You'll be walking around and then monsters will spawn randomly, but they're not going to be right in front of your face. What they do is they give you time to react. You'll see a monster and then a circle meter will come up at the bottom of the screen. There'll be an arrow slowly moving around the circle. If you get to the enemy in time while it's in the green and you hit the A button like you're doing an attack in a hack and slash game, you'll earn a preemptive strike. And not only do you get a preemptive strike, you'll go up and you'll hit them. It'll fill the stagger meter up about halfway. It'll also give you haste for a few turns. Because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the only way you can get haste in this game. There is no spell for haste. At least not that I found on Noel and Sarah, and I leveled them up all the way to 99 for everything. So there's no way to find it except if you get the preemptive strike. So that's something to keep in mind. Something they took away, but it wasn't a big deal because combat's pretty fast in the game anyway. They still have slow if you want to slow your enemy down. But other than that, the preemptive strike thing, I like how they did that because then it could just get you preemptive strikes all the time in the battles. There are still some fixed boss battles and stuff like that, side quest battles where you're not going to be able to get preemptive strikes. But again, it's not a big deal. So I really liked how they did that. And pretty much for the combat, that's just about it for the combat. It's just the same as 13. So except you got that monster in there. The other thing is, instead of it being linear, I guess like they say in the first Final Fantasy 13, to me, I guess it is a little bit more open, and there's towns for people and stuff to talk in. There's side quests you can pick up that are a lot of fun to do, especially the monster hunting ones. And it's set up really simple, so if you're in the side quests and you're in the towns and talking to people, then 13.2 is doing everything that you wanted 13 to do. So, but it's still pretty linear overall, except that you can jump over the different times and stuff like that. But there's no real big huge world to go explore, anything like when you're in Grand Pulse on Final Fantasy 13. But as far as that, yeah, that's pretty much adjusted the gameplay. You travel throughout time, correcting the paradoxes in the time. Once in a while they'll throw a new thing, and I've never seen it in a Final Fantasy type game, and it wasn't in 13, and that's little puzzle segments. It could be a connect the dot type puzzle. It could be there's a clock with different numbers all around, and you need to match up the numbers so the arrows line up on one number to open the gate. I know it doesn't make any sense unless you play the game, but I've never seen stuff like that in the Final Fantasies I played before, so they're trying to do new stuff even in this game. But it was the combat, again, loved it, how fast paced and everything it was. If you were kind of bothered by it in 13, it's still the same thing, but I really enjoy the combat system in it. Auto battle for if you just want to fly through a battle while you're grinding, always saves time. But another key part of the gameplay other than the combat would be the fragments in the game. There's 160 fragments throughout this game. And a fragment is when you kill a boss, sometimes you'll get a fragment. It's a little description of the boss and stuff like that. And what I've been told is these fragments, the more you collect near the end of the game, the easier the final boss is. And my first playthrough, you can't get all of them on your first playthrough getting to the end of the game. But I tried to get as many as I could, and I believe I got 127 or so. You might have been able to get more, but I got that many before I got to the final boss, and it was no problem at all. So if you have over 100, probably you'll be good for the final boss. And when I went back to get the rest of the fragments, I even played the final boss again, and I just dominated them. So that could be another downfall of the game. There was never really a big challenge or me worrying about dying in this game. I don't think I had one game over, except when I tried fighting a rare monster that was too strong for me one time. And other than that, I've never gotten game over in the game. It was pretty easy and simple to fly through and beat. but that could have been because I had a bunch of fragments and they were making me really strong throughout the game. So, but yeah, key is to get those fragments to actually unlock certain special endings and stuff too. You can't even get the secret ending of the game unless you have all the fragments in the game. Some of them are a pain in the butt to get. Some take forever. There's a fragment where you have to do a bestiary of every monster in the game, which means you have to at least fight every monster in the game once. And that could be a pretty daunting task and take a long time to do. There's another one where you got to fill in the map for a lot of areas. That could take a while to do, especially when there's monsters who are all in your way, slowing everything down. So just be aware of stuff like that if you're trying to go for all the fragments. There are some time-consuming ones, but I 100% of the game, did every achievement in it in 52 hours. So, and the time it takes to beat Final Fantasy XIII plus, I did 100% in this game. So it's still not super long, and I heard you can actually beat the main story the first time through in about 30. But you want to get these fragments. That's pretty much a staple of the game, is doing that. That'll help you to unlock other parts in the game. There are also time seals in the game that let you, when you're on the Historia Crux, it's pretty much a gate you can select to go in to the world you want to go in. Eventually you'll be able to close that gate and replay the level. And when you replay the level, sometimes you have an option of getting a different ending of the game, and it's called a paradox ending. Like if the game ended right there, what the end would be. And there's several of these throughout the game that you can try to unlock, which will also lead to more fragments. So if you want to collect all the fragments, you got to get the paradox ending. So that's another key factor in the gameplay. Just make sure you're hunting those fragments down and getting all that taken care of. And I guess the next thing we talk about, graphics, it's just same as 13. I'm not sure how they got it all on one disc, and 13 took 3 discs. Baffles me. Maybe certain things like not having the enemies on the field and stuff like that helped with it. Not having that many characters to play with helped with it. But they did a good job with this one again. I played it on 360 to carry over some stuff from the first game, and it ran fine for me. So PS3 owners, probably ran fine for them too. One disc didn't bother me at all, and yeah, just the environments look beautiful. I'm trying to think, the one I probably liked the most might have been the Arcalite Steeps, because that's like the biggest area in the game. You can change the weather in it, get different animals and stuff in there, depending on the weather. That's where you find a lot of your rare monsters and stuff in the game. So that'd probably be my favorite area, but a lot of them, like I said, are repeats from Final Fantasy XIII. So if you saw it in 13, probably going to see it in this one, just with some new color and stuff in there. But when you're exploring it, it didn't even hit me the first time I was there. It all did seem new. It didn't seem like I was getting rehashed. So that is a good thing. Other than that, the music again in this game I thought was wonderful. I'm so unfortunate I didn't get the collector's edition with the soundtrack. When I went to the store, I had the option. I had some stuff I had traded in I wasn't going to play, and I had enough money to either get the game and the guide or get the collector's edition of the game. And I decided I just wanted to get the game and the guide. So I went ahead and did that, and put the soundtrack from playing with the game. Really good. I like it, probably like it better than 13 soundtrack. It just seemed like it fit more. There's a lot of stuff is similar, but I did like this soundtrack probably better than 13. But anyways, I think that's it. I think I've rambled enough and confused you guys enough. But 13-2, do I like it better than Final Fantasy 13? Yes. This is now my favorite Final Fantasy game. Out of the ones I beat, 13-2 is #1 because it just improved on everything that 13 did. No, it's not as long, but I like that about the game, that it was shorter to beat. You didn't need to pump 80 hours into the game if you wanted to. It was a fun playthrough. I liked the whole monster collecting part of the game. The little improvements on the combat system were fantastic. The characters in the game were great. Noel's a great character. Sarah's a great character. Caius is going to be one of my favorite characters of all time. He was just, the voice acting and everything for the characters was amazing. I thought the combat was smooth, and it trumps 13 for me, except for the ending and even the secret ending. So waiting for 13.3. I'll be a day one buyer of it. I won't wait like I did for these two because 13.2 just got me sucked in now. So I'm looking forward to 13.3. Hope you guys enjoyed this rambling. I know it was a lot. I know I'm shooting through it quick, but it's my last day of vacation. I'm trying to enjoy my last day. So thanks for watching. I'm lagging out.